Coming up next, the story of a classic song from one of our most beloved singer-songwriters on this planet, who has a debilitating disease, and he won't be with us much longer. I hope he makes it. We hope for a miracle. But for the time being, we can celebrate his genius as one of the most beloved icons of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And today we honor one of his classic songs that was inspired by the experience of a failed screen test for a film about one of the most controversial comedians of the 20th century. Today's legend composed the most personally challenging song of his illustrious career, and it took him 4 long months to write it. Usually he could write a song in 10 or 15 minutes. But it was a daily battle on this one to put the song on paper, and it truly drained him emotionally. But when it was finished, it turned out to be one of the most fulfilling songs he'd ever written. In fact, it came from therapy sessions that he was having at the time. However, one lyric about a chair inspired a famous journalist to write a scathing book about bad songs, wherein he ripped this 70s classic to shreds. However, the fans struck back with bags and bags of hate mail, and it was so insurmountable, the journalist had to write a public apology, and he very nearly retired from it. The story of the most ridiculed song of its time and a tribute to a beloved icon is next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. It's interesting to look back at fellow classmates from your school days and really observe their respective journeys into adulthood. Occasionally you recall someone who consistently held a leadership role, maybe the class president, head of a club, or valedictorian. Upon discovering that they've achieved significant success in their career, you say to yourself, well, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But then you reflect back on kids who were, awkward or painfully shy, reclusive even. It's easy to predict that those classmates remain in the background as adults, maybe just like they did when they were in their youth. Noah Kaminsky, more famously known as Neil Leslie Diamond, was one of those painfully shy kids. He was extremely awkward, especially with members of the opposite sex. When I learned about Neil, I wondered what his classmates, thought would happen to him. Did any of his peers imagine that he'd be in the spotlight as an entertainer, one of the greatest ever? Many probably couldn't even remember the name Noah Kaminsky. But as a boy, Neil may not have been able to find the courage to speak out and express himself, but there was much going on inside his young mind and his soul, just waiting to be liberated.
Young child with dreams.
Neil Diamond harbored a reservoir of pent-up emotions, and writing became his outlet for releasing all those frustrations. Transitioning from not writing to a perpetual state of penning lyrics, he found himself jotting down words everywhere, at home, in school, on a subway. The location didn't really matter. He was constantly writing. His future superstar wrote with such intensity that he often ran out of paper.
Dream every dream on your own.
He soon discovered that he had kind of a gift for writing poetry, and he used that skill to write love letters, to the girls that he had crushes on. It proved to be a very effective way to win them over. Neil's parents were ardent ballroom dancers. Many don't know that. Music frequently played inside the Diamond household, especially music with a Latin flavor, dance songs that his parents could do the foxtrot or tango together, too. He fell in love early with pop songs that he heard on his radio. The song that Neil remembers as one of his childhood favorites is Let It Be Me by the Everly Brothers. The melody just fascinated him.
Let it be me.
So writing poetry, that evolved into writing song lyrics. And when that happened, Neil Diamond learned the emotional power of music. And, he used it to woo the heart of his first true love, even though he was an introvert. The first song that Neil composed was called Hear Them Bells. It was a song that he wrote to his high school sweetheart, Jane Posner. And there was just no mistaking how Neil Diamond felt about Jane. When she heard the words of this song gushing with romanticism, just trickling out, hear them bells, the story of our love, hear them bells from above. My darling, I need you more each day.
Hear them bells, the story of our love.
I mean, how could she not fall in love with this guy? So actually, Jane married Neil Diamond a few years after he gifted her with Hear Them Bells, and they had 2 children together. Actually, the couple were married for 6 years before divorcing in 1969.
Hear them bells.
Beneath the surface of Neil Diamond's music, I've always felt there's always been an undertow of melancholy. Even before his ascension as a breakout star, one can hear his inherent sadness in his earliest compositions, like Blue Destiny, a love song filled with frustration. I ask my heart every day, can there be some other way? What can I do to change my blue destiny?
What can I do to change my blue destiny?
Even in a song about optimism and newfound joy with a happy-go-lucky melody like I'm a Believer, there's a subtext of despair that was all too real for Neil Diamond. I thought love was only true in fairy tales, meant for someone else, but not for me. Love was out to get me, that's the way it seemed. Disappointment haunted all my dreams.
Disappointment haunted all my dreams.
Very depressing lyrics in such a happy-go-lucky song when you really listen to it. Neil certainly recognized the core of his being. I mean, his first hit single in '66 truly said it all. In his own words, Neil Diamond described himself as a loner, a solitary man.
And I'll be what I am, a solitary man.
Over his spectacular career, Neil has expressed himself intensely with such excessive force. It's one of the reasons why his music has resonated with millions upon millions of fans. But the song that Neil believes is his most personal, his most honest, is I Am I Said. It's also the most difficult song for Neil to write. It took over 4 months to finish. However, the time he spent languishing on the lyrics proved to be worth the exasperation. Neil called I Am I Said the most satisfying song he ever wrote.
I am myself.
Interestingly, Neil began writing his masterpiece of introspection after an unsuccessful try to play the lead role in a movie about the life and death of the provocative, foul-mouthed comedian Lenny Bruce. It was a calculated move for Neil Diamond, who would claim that he is not a man who likes to swear. Neil wanted to get out of his comfort zone, though, and he wanted to create an edge to, his conservative pop image.
And I'm not a man who likes to swear, but I never cared for the sound of being alone.
The audition for the movie, though, it was brutal. Neil vigorously attempted to channel the fiery, combative soul of Lenny Bruce. Despite his complete and utter commitment to his performance, though, director Bob Fosse passed on Neil Diamond, a rejection that crushed the singer. Like many rock artists who were cutting their teeth in the 60s, Neil Diamond admired Lenny Bruce. During his stand-up comedy routine, Lenny adamantly held onto the rights of the First Amendment in the U.S. Constitution. And he said whatever was on his mind, sparing no one's feelings or following any local standards and ordinances. Could use that today.
It just seems dirty. I just can't make any sense out of it. It's just dirt for dirt's sake. It's just rambling. My attorney, that's our witness.
Lenny was arrested multiple times for public obscenity and was outright banned from performing in many cities across the United States. Musicians of the 60s respected Lenny Bruce, though, because in many ways he represented the rebellious, stick-it-to-the-man defiance of rock and roll. Talking about artists like Ray Manzarek of The Doors, and Frank Zappa, and Keith Richards. They were all huge supporters of Lenny Bruce. Bob Dylan penned Lenny Bruce for his Shot of Love LP.
But his spirit's living on.
And before she joined Jefferson Airplane, Grace Slick wrote the song Father Bruce. It was a track that was dedicated just to him. Neil Diamond's admiration of Lenny Bruce likely stemmed from his lifelong desire to express himself outwardly. Neil was shy and introverted, right? And Lenny was unapologetically outspoken. Neil secretly wished he was able to just, let himself go. Maybe not in the profane, offensive manner that Lenny Bruce did, but releasing his feelings in a way that gave him some kind of gratification. Now, Neil didn't lose the part of Lenny Bruce to a random no-name actor. Oh, no. Bob Fosse eventually chose future two-time Academy Award winner Dustin Hoffman to play the part of Lenny Bruce. For Lenny, that came out in theaters in 1974, and as one would expect, he gave a brilliant performance that earned him a Best Actor nomination.
I believe I do have the right to say the things I'm saying.
Mr. Bruce, I'm running out of patience.
If you just let me do my act for the court, I'll take my chances.
As author David Weil pointed out in his brilliant book, He Is, I Say, How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Neil Diamond, great book, by the way, Neil was struggling with a sense of failure for not getting the part after putting so much conviction into this audition. So he entered a kind of existential funk. So to actually dig himself out of that funk, he did what he always did. He turned to writing. Locking himself inside a dressing room, he started working on lyrics that evolved into his first Grammy-nominated song, I Am, I Said.
But I've got an emptiness deep inside and I've tried.
He simultaneously engaged in therapeutic sessions, actively seeking to connect with his dreams and aspirations, striving for a genuine understanding of his inner self. This period proved profoundly humbling for Neil. Following each session of self-exploration, he regrouped and then he channeled his emotions into song lyrics, adopting a newfound and unprecedented approach to expressing his feelings.
Leaving me lonely, still.
Hey, therapy ain't cheap, but Neil Diamond, he got an all-time hit from this. So the recording of I Am, I Said begins with a contemplative acoustic guitar, immediately strumming us into a time capsule of heavy self-reflection. Then the guitar riff is followed by a comforting therapeutic violin arrangement leading into Neil's iconic first line. LA's fine, the sun shines most of the time, and the feeling is laid back.
LA's fine, the sun shines most of the time.
And then Neil sings about his home, New York City. Although he was born and raised there, it is no longer his home, but neither is LA. As a touring musician constantly on the road, he's really a man that has no home. He's lost between two shores, as the lyric says.
Nowadays I'm lost between two shores.
The lyrics of I Am, I Said lay bare Diamond's emotional turmoil, expressing a sense of being adrift in the world, despite his fame. He grapples with a search for belonging and contends with feelings of absolute loneliness. Neil confides the irony in the life of a traveling musician. He may play in front of thousands of admiring fans in city after city, but when the singer is away from all that fervor, he is the same lonely, solitary man that he's always been, screaming out to someone, anyone who will listen to him, but no one hears him, not even the chair. So true story, Neil literally stared at a chair that was inside his room at a Holiday Inn when he decided to include the reference of the inanimate object into his song. The lyrics, no one heard at all, not even the chair. Those words actually gave renowned journalist Dave Barry the inspiration to write the controversial bestseller Book of Bad Songs. Actually came from a newspaper column he wrote about songs that he absolutely loathed. The response was so big for that article, he knew it would make a great book. Actually, this is taken from the book. This is what he wrote. It would not trouble me if the radio totally ceased playing ballad-style songs by Neil Diamond. I realize that many of you are huge Neil Diamond fans, so let me stress that in matters of musical taste, everybody is entitled to an opinion, and yours is wrong. And then he went on to attack the song. He said, and I quote, "Consider the song I Am, I Said, wherein Neil with great emotion sings I Am, I Said to no one there, and no one heard at all, not even the chair." What kind of line is that? Is Neil Diamond telling us he's surprised that the chair didn't hear him? Maybe he expected the chair to say, "Whoa, I heard that." My guess is that Neil was really desperate to come up with something to rhyme with there, and he already rejected "So I Ate a Pear," like Smokey the Bear, and "There Were Nits in My Hair." Now that little swipe, end of quote, by the way, that's all Dave Barry, that little swipe at the great Neil Diamond would lead to more hate mail than Dave Barry had received in his entire career. It was so bad that Dave Barry had to write a public apology to all the Neil Diamond fans that he pissed off. This is wherein he said, "Please stop writing. You've convinced me. Neil is a music god. I worship Neil on a daily basis at a tasteful shrine to him erected in my living room." Now, given that I Am, I Said was conceived during therapy, I've always regarded the chair as an allegory, symbolizing Neil's psychiatrist who hears what his patient is saying during their session, but isn't truly listening. It's one more empty relationship with someone that doesn't understand what Neil Diamond is trying to communicate.
No one there.
Granted, Dave Barry may have misunderstood that frame of reference, not knowing the story. Digging a little deeper, in an interview from the 2000s, Neil Diamond said that he had to write this autobiographical song to find himself. He said, and I quote, "It's a tough thing for me to gather myself after singing that song." In another powerful demonstration of the emotional power of music, the fans understood I Am, I Said, and resonated with Neil's heartfelt transparency. As the lead single from Stones, Neil's 7th studio album, I Am I Said was an international smash. In addition to its number 4 cresting on the Billboard Hot 100 and the British singles chart, I Am I Said shot to number 1 in a lot of countries, including New Zealand, Ireland, and Sweden. The single peaked at number 2 in Canada and Switzerland, and it went to number 3 in the former West Germany.
I am, I cried.
My favorite part of I Am I Said is verse 3, the part about the frog and the king. Did you ever read about a frog who dreamed of being a king and then became one? Well, except for the names and a few other changes, if you talk about me, the story is the same one.
Did you ever read about a frog who dreamed of being a king?
So is Neil the frog, or is he the king? Neil actually told TV journalist Barbara Walters that he's neither. After decades of therapy and introspection, Neil believes he's merely a human being that sometimes hurts or sometimes frustrated. He feels love, sadness, guilt, and happiness, always striving for the latter. Like many of us, that's why we love this song. It was the composition of I Am I Said that opened the path for clarity for Neil Diamond, the solitary man, not the superstar. In his most soul-bearing track, Neil was able to express all the anger and frustration that was locked inside of him. Through the magic of song, he was able to say words that he had never spoken. And because of Neil's honesty, we don't just sing his song, we cry out loud, shouting the chorus along with them, making I Am I Said our own personal declaration of independence.
I am, I said.
The message within I Am I Said remains particularly relevant in today's context. Think about it. In the era of overwhelming social media, individuals often experience heightened feelings of isolation and detachment from one another, even though we're all connected in technology. Consequently, there is a widespread quest for deeper and more meaningful connections. Despite its melancholy undertones, I Am I Said projects hope and inspiration for those of us that are on a quest to find our place in this world. It serves as a reminder that everyone's unique journey is important, and the pursuit of one's identity, that's an essential aspect of that journey.
We've been traveling far without a home.
The journey of Neil Diamond is one of the more intriguing, no doubt about that. How a shy, awkward kid that bottled up everything inside him progressed into one of the most recognizable and influential voices of the rock era. It's absolutely incredible. It's an amazing example of how unpredictable and exciting life can be. The challenges, that we all face and how we deal with those challenges are part of the exhilaration and the fulfillment of the human spirit. Now, we all know that Neil was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease back in 2018, forcing his retirement from live performances. It was a very sad announcement for sure. The moment was most devastating for Neil, though. For a long time, he refused to accept his diagnosis, but he finally came to terms with the reality. And the acceptance of that reality made him much stronger. He said, somehow a calm has moved in, and the hurricane of my life has gotten very quiet. That's what Neil said in an interview. I don't like it. But this is me. This is what I have to accept. This is the hand that God's given me. I have to make the best of it. And so I am. I am. End of quote. Well said, Mr. Diamond. There's a lot of tributes to Neil. The great Broadway musical that's come out and the new film Song Sung Blue that's doing really well at the box office. Thanks so much for watching. What are your memories of I Am I Said and your feelings on Neil Diamond? I tell you, I'm one of the biggest Neil Diamond fans out there. My dad raised me on his music. Let's have a great discussion celebrating and honoring one of the greats of all time. If you like our content, we do invite you to subscribe below. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.